And he wasn't an especially bright guy. He was more like out of the combat leader genre, you know, more like Rambo than Albert Einstein. And so he heard about this, and immediately he sympathized with the maintenance squadron commander, and he decided to overrule me. Airplane's okay, he said. Ship it off. Well, that didn't quite end the problem, because the guys who were supposed to fly the airplane on its what's called its functional check flight, every time an airplane leaves maintenance, it has to take one sort of test flight, which is called a functional check flight. And there's a 4 or 5 C-130 pilots specially assigned to the maintenance squadron for that specific reason. That's all they do every day, are these functional check flights, or FCF is what it's called. And they knew me, and they got along with me, and I knew them and got along. And they knew I had been down there and looked at the airplane. And apparently, you know, they talked to some mechanics and found out that the engineer didn't like it and wanted to put it back on. So when word came down that Colonel Payrolo said, "Don't worry about it, it's okay," the crew said, "Oh yeah? You want us to fly it that way? Tell you what, we'll fly it if you send us one of your engineers and he flies it with us." Like as a hostage. And the commander of the maintenance squadron, he was a decent guy. He was more in Colonel Payrolo's mode, but he had a conscience, and he was a good leader. I know he was a good leader because of what he did. He said, "We are going to fly this functional check flight, and we are going to leave the airplane the way it is. And you two guys are going to be flying it, but I'm going to be in the cockpit with you." Kind of, bold thing for him to do. And there was going to be one other person in the cockpit, and that was going to be the hostage engineer. So I heard about this. My supervisor called me in, and he felt bad. He had seen this kind of thing happen a million times before, with Colonel Payrolo and with other commanders there before Colonel Payrolo. This guy was a career civil servant near the end of his career, and I had seen this kind of thing happen a million times. And so he was bemused about it, frustrated by it. There's nothing he could do. The word had already come down, and now he had to find a hostage to go on the check flight. And he was telling me all this business. And when he told me that, I suddenly remembered the first story. And my boss didn't know. Nobody knew but me. I was just carrying this shame around all this time. And I said, "You know what? I'll go on the flight. I'll ride that airplane." And he was very surprised. He said, "You're the one that said, it's no good. I can't ask you to do that." And I said, "Well, it'd be pretty much the same if you asked any other engineer, because none of us are going to say that skin panel is okay. It might as well be me." And he looked at me for a minute and he said, "All right." And he shook my hand. I remember looking in his eyes, and he had that question in his mind, like, last time I'm going to be talking to Mark. So I got on a flight suit, toddled on down to the the life support section, and I'm laughing because one of the things you have to do there is check out a parachute. But you can't wear a parachute in the C-130 cockpit. It's not designed. It doesn't have enough space for people to actually wear a cockpit. And anyway, if something happened and you're in the cockpit, you can't get out from the cockpit. You have to walk to one of the cargo doors to jump out of the airplane. So the parachutes are hung in the cargo bay while the aircrew goes into the cockpit. But you still have to check out a parachute. And I remember doing that. Got about 3 minutes of training on how to pull a ripcord and how to jump out of the airplane without getting chopped up by the